Not every world has a sunrise. Some do not know the warmth of morning, the slow climb of light across their surface, the soft comfort of orbit. There are planets, lonely, wandering planets, that drift in the dark between stars. They are called rogue planets, but names hardly matter out here in the quiet. Imagine a world without a sky. No constellations above, no familiar sun to circle, only the endless night, stretching in every direction, unbroken, eternal. This is the life of a rogue planet. It drifts endlessly, and in its drifting, it becomes something rare. A traveler with no destination, a story without a stage. Science tells us that these worlds are not rare at all. For every star you see, there may be more planets without stars, adrift, forgotten, unseen. Thousands, millions, maybe even billions, floating like ghosts through the galactic sea. But don't think of them as failures, as broken pieces cast aside. Think of them as quiet pilgrims. Once, perhaps, they belonged to a star. They circled faithfully, caught in the familiar rhythm of orbit. But then, gravity changed the story. Sometimes it happens violently, a collision, a passing giant pulling too close. Sometimes it happens quietly, over eons, like a whisper of imbalance that grows until the planet is nudged free. And once it leaves, once it is torn from the embrace of its sun, it falls into the deepest silence the universe knows. No sunrise, no sunset, no seasons, just an eternal drift. And yet, imagine standing on its surface. It would not feel like death. It would feel like stillness. The cold, yes. The darkness, yes. But also the vast comfort of knowing you are utterly alone, unmeasured, unseen. Every direction the same, every horizon equally endless. The only sound, the whisper of wind across barren stone. This is not the loneliness of absence. This is the loneliness of purity. A solitude so perfect it becomes almost holy. We often think of space as filled with stars, but in truth, space is mostly not. Between suns, between galaxies, between the glowing spirals and nebulae we love to imagine, lies silence. And in that silence, these worlds travel. They do not complain. They do not yearn. They do not ask, "Why me?" They simply drift. And in their drifting, they reveal a strange truth. Perhaps belonging to nothing can also be a kind of freedom. Because while stars are bound, while planets in orbits are chained to their cycles, the rogue planet is free. It owes nothing to anyone. It does not circle. It does not return. It only moves forward, forever. Somewhere in the dark, one such planet might be passing even now, gliding silently past the edge of our solar system, unseen by any telescope. A whole world with mountains, valleys, frozen seas, hidden just beyond our vision, slipping away into deeper night. Science whispers that such planets might be countless. Galaxies could be teeming with them, like invisible shadows drifting between the stars. But to us, they are mysteries, because they leave almost no trace. We can only guess at their journeys. But perhaps that is their gift, to remind us that not everything needs to be seen, measured, explained, that some things exist quietly, without witness, without approval. A rogue planet does not need an audience. It does not need light to shine on it to prove that it is there. It simply is. And so, in the eternal dark, it wanders, not broken, not lost, only traveling. Every exile has a story. Even a planet does not drift without reason. Once it belonged somewhere. Once it circled faithfully, bound by the invisible thread of gravity, dancing in rhythm with its siblings. A child of a star, warmed by its light, sculpted by its pull. But the cosmos is not gentle. It is not orderly. It is not kind. Stars are born in crowded nurseries, swirling cradles of gas and dust. Here, gravity builds worlds, but it also destroys them. Planets jostle for place, giants pull at smaller bodies, and chaos is written into the very fabric of the newborn system. Sometimes the push is violent. A planet collides with another, a catastrophic impact shattering both, scattering fragments into the void. Other times, the push is subtle, a gravitational nudge from a passing star, or the slow destabilization of orbits over millions of years. And then it happens. The orbit breaks. The invisible leash of gravity snaps, and the planet is thrown outward, flung into the cold. Science calls this planetary ejection, but words are blunt instruments for something so profound. Imagine it instead as a farewell no one expected. The star continues to shine, as if nothing has changed. The other planets continue their orbits, bound to their cycles. But one world is gone, its path broken, its story rewritten. It drifts outward, away from the only sun it has ever known, away from the warmth that shaped it, away from the system that once defined its place. And there is no going back, for the laws of gravity are final. Once you are cast out, you do not return. You become something else, not a planet of a star, but a rogue. Scientists believe this has happened countless times. Every solar system we see may have lost children to the dark, even ours. Perhaps before Earth was born, our sun cast out a planet or two, unseen, unremembered, now wandering far between the stars. But exile is not failure. It is transformation. A rogue planet is not less than its siblings. It is simply different. It no longer plays the endless game of orbit. It no longer waits for sunrise or sunset. It has no seasons, no cycles, no tether. It moves forward endlessly, into night. And in that motion, it becomes something strange, not a prisoner of a star, but a free traveler of the galaxy. Freedom often begins as loss, and the story of the rogue planet begins with being cast out. But exile, too, has its beauty, because in losing one world, you gain all the others. The rogue planet belongs not to one star, not to one orbit, not to one home. It belongs to the galaxy itself. And so, the story of every rogue planet is not just one of loss. It is one of becoming. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of stillness. It has weight. It presses gently but endlessly against every surface, every thought, every breath. For a rogue planet, silence is its eternal companion. There is no sun to rise and scatter light across valleys, no moons to pull the seas into tides, no familiar rhythm to mark the passing of days, only the slow turning of a world that no one watches, only the endless dark, stretching without horizon, without measure, without end. Imagine standing on such a surface. The ground beneath you is frozen stone, locked in shadow that never lifts. Above you, the sky is not a sky at all. It is the raw fabric of space, scattered with stars too distant to warm you, too far to matter. They twinkle faintly, yes, but they do not belong to you. You are not their child. You are not in their care. You are outside of all orbits, all families, all systems. And in that exile, there is silence. We think silence is something peaceful, but in space, silence is overwhelming. It is absolute. Even on Earth, in our quietest moments, there is always something: the chirp of insects, the rustle of wind, the low hum of distant life. Here, there is nothing. The silence of interstellar space is deeper than anything you have ever felt. It is so complete it becomes its own kind of sound, an endless ringing absence, a pressure that fills your ears though there is nothing there. To a human mind, it would be unbearable, but to a planet, it is simply what is. The rogue planet does not mourn the loss of its sun. It does not beg for warmth or light. It only drifts. And in that drifting, silence becomes its cloak. There is a strange dignity in that silence, a kind of majesty. Not the loud, burning majesty of a star, but a subtler one, a majesty of endurance, because in silence, nothing distracts, nothing changes. There is only the endless now. Time itself feels different here. Without a sun to circle, without seasons to mark, without days to count, the rogue planet floats in a kind of timelessness. Moments stretch, years blur, millennia pass like quiet exhalations, and what is left is not boredom, not waiting, but a calm so profound it erases the very idea of hurry. On Earth, we chase minutes. We measure hours. We name each day, each year, with desperate precision. But a rogue planet knows nothing of this. It drifts through time as though time were an ocean, endless, shoreless, weightless. This is the true weight of silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of urgency. A peace so vast it feels alien to us, who cannot imagine existing without clocks, without markers, without the sharp edges of passing time. And yet, there is also cold. For silence, in space, is tied to emptiness. The dark between stars is not warm, not welcoming. It is vast and indifferent. On the surface of a rogue planet, temperatures plunge. Atmospheres, if they exist, grow thin and brittle. Water turns to ice. The planet becomes a frozen sculpture, carved not by hands, but by the endless patience of night. And still, it drifts. It does not shatter. It does not vanish. It endures. Perhaps that is the lesson hidden in its silence, that existence does not require an audience, that survival does not need applause, that to drift alone in the dark is not failure, it is simply another way of being. For in the end, silence is not emptiness, it is a fullness of another kind. A fullness of patience, of endurance, of presence. The rogue planet carries this weight effortlessly, and in doing so, it whispers to us, "You too may learn to be whole in your silence." Darkness does not always mean lifelessness. Cold does not always mean dead. Even as a rogue planet drifts through endless night, far from any star, it may still carry a secret, warmth. Deep beneath the frozen crust, far below the silence of ice and stone, fires may still burn. Not the bright fires of a sun, but the quiet embers of its own heart. Every planet is born hot. In its youth, collisions, pressure, and chaos ignite a core of molten rock and metal, and even when the surface freezes, that inner fire can last for billions of years, radiating slowly outward. Scientists call this geothermal heat, but for our wandering world, it is more than heat. It is memory. It is the last inheritance of a star long lost. Imagine a rogue planet cloaked in ice. Above, the surface is barren, winds howling thin across deserts of frozen stone. But below, miles beneath, there could be oceans, vast, dark oceans, warmed not by sunlight, but by the quiet pulse of a molten heart. It sounds like fantasy, but it is not. Even here in our own solar system, moons like Europa and Enceladus hide seas beneath their frozen shells, kept liquid by the warmth of tidal forces and inner heat. If they can carry oceans in the shadow of their planets, why not a rogue world, carrying oceans in the shadow of the galaxy itself? And where there is ocean, there may be life. Life that does not need sunlight. Life that does not worship the star. Life that grows in the dark, feeding on minerals, on heat, on chemistry alone. On Earth, such life already exists. At the bottoms of our oceans, where sunlight never reaches, creatures gather around hydrothermal vents, thriving in alien blackness. Tube worms, strange crabs, microbes that feed on sulfur, on heat, on the chemistry of stone. They prove what once seemed impossible, that life is not married to light. So imagine for a moment the seas of a rogue planet, black waters stretching into the unseen, creatures that have never known a sun, worlds of coral-like structures glowing faintly from chemical fire, entire ecosystems unbothered by the silence above. A rogue planet may look dead from a distance, a frozen rock in the void, but deep inside, It may be alive with warmth, with movement, with hidden sparks of existence. Even the atmosphere, if it clings tightly enough, could trap that heat. Thick blankets of hydrogen, for instance, might insulate a rogue planet, keeping it warm for billions of years. A drifting greenhouse, invisible in the dark, glowing softly from within. Here, science meets poetry, because in a way, these hidden fires mirror us. We too carry warmth in our cores, even in silence, even in exile, even when the world outside feels frozen. There is always an ember inside that endures. It does not shout, it does not dazzle, but it is enough. And so, the rogue planet is not only a symbol of loneliness, it is a symbol of resilience. A reminder that what we see on the surface is never the whole story. That even in the coldest dark, there may be oceans waiting, fires burning, life continuing in secret. Perhaps that is why rogue planets feel so human. Because like them, we drift through a universe we cannot control. Like them, we lose suns, lose homes, lose the light we once circled. And like them, we learn to keep moving anyway, carrying our hidden fires. So do not think of the rogue planet as a corpse in the void. Think of it as a lantern, its glow unseen, its warmth unmeasured, but still burning, still alive. And somewhere, perhaps, in one of those secret seas, something stirs, something breathes. Something reminds the universe that even in exile, even in silence, life finds a way to endure. When we speak of rogue planets, drifting in the dark, it is hard not to see ourselves reflected in them, because in truth, loneliness is not just a cosmic condition. It is a human one. Think of it, a world cast from its orbit, torn away from its sun. What is that, if not the story of every person who has ever lost their center? Who has ever been untethered, unmoored, wandering through silence, searching for belonging? We like to imagine ourselves as stars, burning, constant, radiant. But more often, we are planets, spinning around something else, drawing warmth from the presence of another, a parent, a friend, a lover, a community. And when those lights go out, when gravity shifts, when bonds break, we too become wanderers, alone in an endless night. The rogue planet does not choose its solitude, neither do we. But once it arrives, it becomes our teacher. Because what it shows us is this: being unmoored does not mean being unfinished. Drifting does not mean broken. A planet without a sun is still a planet. Its mountains still rise, its oceans still rest in their basins, its core still glows, it is still whole. We are the same. When we are cast from the orbits we once knew, we are not destroyed, we are transformed. We become wanderers, yes, but wanderers carry a different kind of freedom. There is something strangely comforting in the thought that a whole world can survive without a star, that it can drift for billions of years in silence and still exist, still endure, still carry hidden oceans and secret fires. It tells us that maybe we, too, can survive without the orbits we once thought defined us. Maybe we are stronger than we believe. Maybe loneliness is not emptiness, but space. Space in which we can discover what else we might become. Science tells us rogue planets may outnumber stars. Think about that. More worlds wandering in the dark than worlds basking in the light. If that is true, then perhaps solitude is not the exception in the universe. Perhaps it is the rule, and if the universe accepts it, why can't we? We so often see loneliness as failure. We imagine it as the absence of meaning, the absence of love. But the rogue planet suggests something different, that solitude is not the end of the story. It is simply another kind of story. You see, even in its silence, the rogue planet still travels. Its journey does not stop when its orbit ends. If anything, the journey begins there. No longer bound to a star, it can drift across the galaxy, seeing vistas its siblings locked in orbit will never see. It trades belonging for vastness, it trades rhythm for freedom. And perhaps we too have something to learn from that trade. There are times in life when the orbits we once depended on fall away, when the people we circled are gone, when the lights we drew warmth from fade. In those moments, it feels like exile. It feels like loss. It feels like drifting. But maybe drifting is not the end. Maybe it is simply the beginning of a different kind of freedom. The rogue planet whispers, "You are still whole. You are still alive. You are still traveling." We think of stars as the symbols of hope, but sometimes hope is quieter. Sometimes it is not a burning sun in the sky, but a small ember hidden in the dark. A reminder that even without orbit, even without light, even without belonging, you are still a world unto yourself. The rogue planet carries that truth for us. It becomes our mirror, a dark, drifting reflection of our own solitary strength. And if billions of them wander the galaxy, then perhaps billions of us, too, carry that same hidden fire, not shining loudly for all to see, but still burning, still enduring, still moving forward through the endless dark. There is a paradox in the cosmos that mirrors the paradox within us. Sometimes, the deepest kind of freedom is found in the very place we think of as exile. Darkness, emptiness, silence. They seem like chains, like prisons. But for the rogue planet, cast adrift into the abyss between stars, they are something else entirely. No orbit to obey, no parent star to circle endlessly, repeating the same seasonal cycle for billions of years. No gravitational master dictating the rhythm of its days. For the rogue, there is only open space. Yes, it is cold. Yes, it is lonely. But it is free. Most planets are tethered. Earth is one. She clings to the sun like a child, drawing warmth, light, and meaning from its fire. Our orbit is comfort, but it is also constraint. We cannot leave, not without burning ourselves apart. Yet a rogue planet drifts beyond that leash. It has broken the celestial chain, and in doing so, it has stepped into a new kind of existence, unbound, untamed, ungoverned. Astronomers believe there may be billions of rogue planets in the Milky Way. They are survivors of gravitational battles, flung out of their home systems by violent encounters with larger worlds or twin suns, a cosmic exile. And yet, perhaps it is liberation too. For once freed, they are no longer locked into predictable motion. They wander where gravity allows, carving their own path across the Black Sea. Imagine the view from such a world. No dawn, no sunset, no eternal center dominating the sky. Instead, stars, endless stars, filling every horizon. A whole galaxy visible with naked eyes, unfiltered by the glare of a nearby sun. On Earth, our sky is washed pale by daylight, hiding the infinity beyond. On a rogue planet, the infinity is all you have. The universe itself becomes the sky. Of course, the reality is harsher. These worlds are cold beyond imagining. With no starlight to warm them, their surfaces sink to hundreds of degrees below freezing. Oceans, if they once had them, would be locked beneath thick shells of ice. Winds would carry frozen particles like knives. It seems unlivable. And yet, perhaps not. For science tells us that freedom in darkness does not mean emptiness. Deep inside, the planet's core may still burn with radioactive heat, just as Earth's does. That hidden furnace could keep a subterranean ocean alive. Liquid water, protected beneath the crust. Creatures could swim in eternal night, never knowing the stars, never needing the sun. Life that thrives without light. Life that makes a home in exile. It is strange to think, the most solitary planets may be the ones most likely to harbor secret life, because in their freedom, they also gain privacy. Untouched by a star's radiation, hidden from cosmic storms, wrapped in thick shells of ice, their oceans become quiet sanctuaries. The galaxy could be full of these wandering worlds, each carrying its own small, secret ecosystems in the dark. And here is where the metaphor bends back to us. For isn't it true that sometimes, when stripped of the structures and routines that confine us, we discover something deeper within ourselves? When we lose the sun that gave us certainty, we are forced inward to find a fire of our own. It is a terrifying kind of freedom, to drift without direction, to wander without a map. But it can also be the beginning of something true, something self-born. A rogue planet's journey is not easy, but it is sovereign. It does not ask permission to exist. It simply moves forward, carrying its hidden warmth through an endless night. That is a form of freedom we rarely speak of, the freedom that comes from letting go of external anchors, even if it means facing the void. Perhaps that is why these worlds speak so powerfully to us. They remind us that to be alone is not always to be abandoned, to wander is not always to be lost, and to live in darkness is not always to be without life. So let us look again at the drifting planet far between the stars and see not just exile but possibility, not just coldness but clarity, for in that darkness lies the rarest gift of all, the chance to belong to no one but yourself. The galaxy is full of paths that almost touch. Stars swing by each other on cosmic timescales, sometimes passing close enough to stir comets or pull at the edges of dusty disks. But more often, they drift past, never knowing how near they came to reshaping another world. For rogue planets, this is their story. A series of encounters that never happened. They pass through neighborhoods of suns, weaving among invisible borders of gravity, skirting the edge of capture, but always just missing the embrace. A million almosts, a billion near possibilities. Some rogue worlds drift close enough to feel the warmth of a star, if only briefly. For a moment, years, perhaps centuries, they bask in faint light before slipping back into the abyss. It's a glimpse of what could have been, a reminder of the family they lost, or the family they never had. Astronomers tell us that gravitational encounters are common. A rogue might circle a star for a while, caught in its pull, before some celestial dance sets it free again. These near captures are like cosmic glances exchanged across a crowded room, brief, electric, but never lasting. And it is here, in this unfulfilled longing, that rogue planets resemble us. How many times have we brushed past people who could have altered the course of our lives? How many conversations never spoken, how many friendships never born, how many loves lost to timing, circumstance, or fear? The rogue planet drifts on, carrying the memory of encounters that never were. And we too drift on, haunted by the ghosts of paths not taken. Yet there is no bitterness in this wandering, only the strange, aching beauty of possibility. To know that the universe is not just what is, but also what almost was. For every planet that never found a star, there are infinite chances still ahead. A billion galaxies, a trillion suns. The silence is long, but not final. The rogue's path is proof. Even loneliness holds the shimmer of encounter. And even in the darkness, there are brushstrokes of connection, fleeting, fragile, but real.